Welcome back to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. I'm a divorce lawyer who is passionate about helping all of us to use the difficult things in our life to grow and show up as the best version of ourselves. I am joined today by the Robin Quivers to my Howard Stern, Aaron Bender.
You haven't done that one in a while.
It's been a while, and I
it got
almost
me then.
couldn't do it. It got you then, and it got you now?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I like to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and that you do. And
Yes.
I would imagine your kids keep you on your toes. Your employees keep you on your toes. And hence, we have the boss mom on the show today. And I can't think of a better host to talk to a better guest about life.
Yes, that's true. All of that is true. My kids keep me on my toes. My business keeps me on my toes. But, that's part of the beauty of life. We are joined today by Dana Malstaff, author of Boss Mom, The Ultimate Guide to Raising a Business and Nurturing Your Family Like a Pro. Dana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start off by, what do you think a boss mom is? Like, what's your definition of a boss mom?
Oh, I love this question, especially because I have Boss Mom on the front of my computer.
Oh.
So if I'm at a Starbucks, all manner of people come up and they'll be like, oh, my mom, she's a boss mom. Oh, my sister, she's a boss mom. And they all have a different version of what that means.
Yes.
When we started Boss Mom, a boss mom is somebody who is more than one thing, who has more than one priority, more than one goal, more than one dream. And we started because I knew I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I had a corporate job and all those things, and I wrestled with motherhood and wanting to be with my child and the dreams and visions I had from before I was a mom, which we all did. We were all grown women who had dreams and aspirations before we became a mom. And so Boss Mom is this duality. It isn't that I'm a boss who's a mom, and it is about this duality that is innately in every single woman who is drawn to create, to build, to be known, to be seen, to be loved, and also the side of us that yearns to take care, to nurture, to all of those things. And they live together. And the reason boss moms end up being women who all start businesses is because when we go inward to have children and take care of our children, we're drawn to business in the way that we are able to have them online in today's world, because we yearn to also be seen and to teach and to show and to impact. And so Boss Mom is really a beautiful mesh of all the things that a woman can be, and that the new age of business and the internet has allowed us to actually become more of.
Yes, I love that. I think that is a wonderful definition, like this concept of duality. But as you were saying that, I thought back to a funny time in my life when I had multiple employees suing me at the same time. And I said, you're not a boss mom until you're being sued by employees.
Well, I mean, my dad used to say you're not an entrepreneur. He's like, you're really not a true entrepreneur until you've been sued or gone bankrupt.
Yes. I think I would also subscribe to that. Yes. Yes. So I loved your book. I thought it was so clever how you kind of analogized each stage of, babies with business. Like, is your baby teething? Is your business teething? And I thought that was a really clever way to write the book. So kudos to you on that. But what inspired you to write your book?
A prenuptial agreement, or sometimes called a premarital agreement, is an agreement that two parties enter into before they get married that basically chooses to deviate from state law. It assigns rights and responsibilities regarding assets and debts that are acquired during the marriage. Some common misconceptions about prenups are, one, that they basically doom the marriage to failure, or that it's really planning to divorce, and neither of those things are true. But the real value of a prenup is talking about and creating rules around how the things that you acquire during the marriage are going to be characterized. A prenup can protect things like art collections, real estate portfolios, businesses, all those types of assets. The ideal timeline to get a prenup is not 2 weeks before the wedding. The final version of a prenup has to be presented to the parties 7 days before they actually sign it. So there's like a 7-day waiting period. As soon as you get engaged, you should seek a lawyer's advice and counsel on a prenup and start the process then, because the closer the prenup is signed to the wedding, the more likely that the court is going to think there was some sort of duress involved in that person signing it, and they have to prove that the prenup was signed voluntarily in order for them to be enforced. At More Family Law Group, we represent a lot of high-profile people, celebrities, professional athletes, business tycoons. If you already have a lot of assets or you think you're going to be acquiring a lot of assets during your marriage, we are the best ones to protect that for you and help you make your marriage stronger. Call More Family Law Group today.
Yeah, well, and this is our 10th anniversary, so we'll actually be coming out with the second edition of the Boss Mom book later this year.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm very excited about, because there's a lot more we want to add. So it'll end up being like 2-3 times thicker, and it will be on Audible this time for all of our moms that are like, I have to listen while on the line picking my kids up.
Yes.
Ultimately, I always knew I wanted to be to write a book. I was a broadcast journalism major. I come from my mom's side, the literary family. When I had my son was right when I was working in a startup corporate job, and the husband and wife were married and they got a divorce. And basically everybody who was on the husband's side was kind of getting ceremoniously let go.
Okay.
And so I knew I had this timeline to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And at the end of, of that year, I really couldn't find anywhere else I wanted to work. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And my mentor at the time was like, you should just be a consultant. You make way more money and then you get to work at all sorts of different places. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do that. Well, I'd been working 14-hour days. I was at director level. It's New Year's Eve. Everybody takes me out for my last day with tequila shots. And 6 weeks later, I was pregnant by my husband.
Okay.
And he used to be like, that feels like too much information. And I'm like, if people can't handle where babies come from, like,
we got bigger problems. Yeah.
We got bigger problems. You're never going to be able to have a business.
Right.
And so I immediately was starting a business and pregnant at the same exact time. And there is a lot of worry, shame, guilt, all those things. As soon as my son was born, I felt like I wasn't sure what to do. I absolutely adored him and loved him, but also it's massively stressful having a baby. Nobody talks about how difficult it is to have no idea whether a child will sleep through the night or not by your second, or for all my friends that have more than that babies, by the second or third one, you're like, oh, they'll be fine. But in your first one, it's traumatizing.
Yeah.
So going through all of that, trying to have a business, I remember looking at I was in like a Panera, with my son, sleeping, trying to get some work done. I was working on like a website, something that nowadays I would tell people to not be the first thing you work on for your business. And I look over and it's like a mom and a grandma and a baby. And I called up my husband crying and I was like, can we move to San Diego? We were in Columbus, Ohio at the time, because I want to be close to my family. Like, I feel so alone here. And it was like negative 17 degrees in Columbus. And he was like, yes, we will put the house up tomorrow and move to San Diego. It's not a hard sell. He's like, yeah, beach, surfing. Yes, we can totally do that.
Right.
So like 5 weeks later, we were here. And that's when I started to see all these meetups and things with people who had businesses. And I realized nobody where I was, like, they were telling me, people there were like, oh, well, like, you're pregnant, like, go get a job before someone finds out you're pregnant. Right. And I'm like, I don't want a job. Here, it was all of these people starting businesses and they were moms. So fast forward a couple months and I'm in a mastermind, and actually probably must have been more than a couple months, and I'm in a mastermind. Someone there who's a good friend of mine now, Azul Turonis, helps you write books. And he's like, if someone wants to write a book, I'll do it, at a discount. I was like, I'm going to do it. And everybody around me was like, it's a bad idea. It's, you're not focused. You need to do, and I was like, no, I really want to write a book. I thought I was going to write a marketing book, but when I sat down and did all the mind mapping, I got this massive clarity about really wanting to write about this journey of guilt and shame, feeling that I kind of I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to do more things. I'm actually really jealous of the women who find complete and utter fulfillment of just having their kids.
Yeah,
I'm just not one of them. And,
right.
I feel like there's got to be a population of women that are like me. And so I ended up writing Boss Mom. And from there, The Boss Mom podcast took off. We've got over 3 million downloads now. The Facebook group took off, which grew to 76,000. We had the, like Boss Mom Academy, Boss Mom retreats. We had Boss Mom local meetups, and we just kept fanning the flame. It's grown into something that has so much deeper meaning now than I realized it would after a decade of coaching, thousands and thousands of women.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was just about not feeling so alone and not maybe feeling like maybe I'm broken or the only one. And then for everybody to go, oh my gosh, thank God there's more of us out there. Because then that melts away that shame or that guilt or that worry that there is something wrong with you, and that recognition that there is just a population of women who have beautiful brains and are meant to go out and build and do, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, I love that. That's amazing. I mean, obviously that, aligns with my values and my journey. So of course I'm going to love it. But yes, that a lot of that resonates with me. So that's amazing. How did you, if you have, how did you get over the shame and guilt of, not wanting to just have your entire life be a stay-at-home mom?
Well, first, I think that guilt and shame often come from, well, this is what I'll say. I'll say shame generally comes from the fact that we feel like we're doing something wrong, right? That I'm doing something that I feel bad about. And the only reason I think us moms feel that way is because we don't have anybody telling us that it's not so crazy. And so going out into the world and having conversations with people and starting to meet with other women who had businesses and recognizing, oh my gosh, we all feel this way. We're just not talking about it. We're not talking to each other about it. And really over the last decade, helping to then make it much more of a conversation we are having out loud. Like that's what helps get rid of the shame, because you don't need to have shame if there is nothing with which to be shameful for. Right. But you don't know that it's nothing to be shameful for if you don't know that other people are experiencing it too. So awareness and vocalness is one of the first big things that has to happen that I realized that we wanted to share. Guilt comes from when you think you don't know if you're making the right decision, right? And motherhood and entrepreneurship are riddled with decisions you have no idea are going to be good or bad. Like you don't know if the way that you are parenting is going to, which kind of therapy is going to require your children
That's right,
when they grow up, right?
Right.
You don't know if they're going to want to be friends with you and come for Christmas, or if you're going to even like them or they're going to like you. You don't know in business if that marketing or that launch or that thing's going to work. So we are constantly making decisions. When you're a mom who wants to do more than just parenting, although I think all moms and all parents probably feel this way to whatever capacity, but I think when you want more, it's like, oh my gosh, if he's napping and I'm doing this thing, it's okay. But if he's awake and I want to work, or I'm actually not really excited about hanging out with my child right now because my brain is on this really exciting thing, or I want to not do that work thing because I want to hang out with my kid. It's all riddled with this guilt because you don't know what your decisions are. So a lot of what we end up helping women with is a way of looking at time management different. So it's not about big batching and things like that, because the way a mom time manages is very different than a way somebody who just has 8 free hours a day time manages.
Right.
We take a look at how you're really thinking about what your priorities are, and what you want, so that you can make intentional decisions about when you're in your work, when you're in your motherhood, when they're intertwined and integrated and when they're not. And it's really in that intentionality and that recognition that we do things differently that the guilt goes away, because you start to recognize that not only can all those things live together, but your children actually get to start seeing that you are resilient, seeing that you are going after things that are bigger, seeing that they are not the center of your universe, because I have a deep belief that that is not actually helpful for them, that they need to feel like you are moving in a direction and that you're purposely bringing them with you as opposed to simply being around them.
Yes, I could not agree more. I think, well, to your point about being around other women with the same thing, I think so much of this does depend on like the circle that you run in. And
100%.
I'm so blessed and fortunate to run in a circle where it's like, we're all kind of like, no, like the best thing you could do for your kids is like to pursue your dreams and to pursue your highest potential and all of that stuff. So I love that. But you know what's so interesting that I think is my husband's a fireman. And so for years. Like he's gone multiple days of the week, all the time. And I asked him and like, I'll occasionally have a business trip and I'll just be racked with guilt for that 3-day business trip, once a quarter. And one day I asked him, like, do you feel guilty every time you leave and go to work for 2 or 4 days? And he's like, no, why would I feel guilty for that?
No.
And I'm like, why is it so hard for a mom? Like, I mean, it's not hard for me to go, but it is hard for me to go without a shred of guilt. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that? Have you uncovered that yet?
Well, some of it is because of our egos, is my belief. I mean, some of it is because we aren't good at letting go. Like, there's a lot we could blame on culture or society or our partners not stepping up, but most of us like to take care of things. We like to do things. We think we do them better than everybody else.
Okay.
Half the time we have to remind ourselves that our kids need to help with the chores because we're like, it's easier for me to just get it done or have somebody else do it or whatever, wherever you're at in your life. It's really hard to let go of control. And that's the biggest thing, because I still have a hard time being that way because I am good at taking care of things. I'm good at managing things. I'm good at making sure things get done. I have to actually step out of that zone and recognize that the better gift that I can give my family, my friends, my students, my everybody around me is to give them space to step up, and then to show them the excitement and the pride of them stepping up. And that letting go, that saying, me being gone for a little while, creating space is actually really good. And that I can then intentionally, if I feel like there needs to be that conversation, have the conversation about why I stepped away, why that's important, what I would love and expect from them, and how we could discuss things or do things, or what I'd love for them to be thinking about or accomplishing while I'm gone. Obviously, depending on the age of your children. That dynamic is really important because there's nothing wrong with the fact that a mom knows she can take care of everything. That's how we're wired. It actually takes a lot to step back and go, I am happier and better off to step back and allow everybody else to step up and rise up. And we're just not taught that as women. We're not taught that anyway. In fact, the way we normally are of just owning and taking care of everything is often reinforced over and over again. But then we're told to be vulnerable. We're told to self-care. We're told to receive love. Nobody's ever taught us how to do any of those things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what's so interesting is, the premise of or kind of the format of your book is like, the parallels between mothering and business. And like, the only way you can scale a business to grow is by leveraging your time, which means you have to let go and you have to let other people do things and you have to be okay with that and you have to create space. I mean, one of my favorite books that I've read related to my business that I make all my leadership team read is called Multipliers. And the premise of the book is like letting go and letting creating the space for other people to step up and to make mistakes and to grow from those mistakes. But so it's really interesting because we're talking about it in the context of motherhood, but the exact same thing applies to scaling and growing a business and leveraging your time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we also, for any of us that are also good coaches, man, we want to bring people across the finish line. We want to make sure, we want to drag them, and it's like, you gotta giving everybody their space to make their own mistakes. Like, we cannot give our children or our employees or our clients or our audience wisdom. Like, wisdom is earned. What we can give them is the voice, the light, the idea, the different way of thinking, the different viewpoint, the different perspective, this mirror of showing that someone like them can do it. But then they've got to get up and walk. They've got to get up and do their thing. And I think that moms there's a lot of guilt and shame at wanting things for their own. There's a lot of guilt and shame. And men don't feel that way because it's just a weird trained thing because women are generally the ones that have to make sure the kids survive. But I remember the first time I forgot my kids' lunches and I was going to Vegas with my husband. It was like the very first time we were going to have be away from the kids for 2 days. And I forgot the lunches. And met my mom to take me to the airport, and I call, and they're like, yeah, we'll feed them lunch and we'll just, put it on your tab. And I remember looking at my mom and be like, oh my gosh, worst mother of the year. And my mom was just like, how snooty of you to think that you're the only mom to forget a lunch. Like, I'm sorry there. You think you're
Yeah.
special? Like, we've all forgotten a lunch. And I was like, oh, that's a great perspective. And then I remember going back, and the first day I came back and I went to go get, like, drop the kids off. And a dad walked up and he's like, oh man, I forgot my lunch. You guys got me, right? She's like, we'll put it on your tab. And he walked away all happy. And I was like,
Yeah.
ah.
Interesting. Yeah, that is a great perspective. So I have always felt like my function as a mom, and this probably, I don't know, I don't think everybody feels the same way. But I've always felt like my function as a mom is to raise high functioning people, that will eventually be adults, and they will be high functioning, and they
Right.
will be responsible, and they will contribute to society. I think there is a section of parents that believe like their function is to raise like happy, happy kids. That has never been my goal. And even
I love that you imply that high functioning kids aren't happy, because I do think they can be, but I get what you're saying.
That's true. I guess they could be. But I really think if you're high functioning and you're living a meaningful life, so that's not necessarily the pursuit of happiness, but it's the pursuit of purpose and meaning. I think happiness comes from that. So you're right. That's a good point. They don't have to be, mutually exclusive. Like you could be high functioning and happy. So
I love what you're saying, and then I think I have a friend who tells me he's raising kids and I'm raising adults. That's how he phrases it. And what I love about that is there's an interesting distinction, because I don't think that parents that are like that are saying I just want to raise happy kids.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is I want my kids to be kids as long as possible.
Yes.
I think that's it. And people like you and me are going, well, I want to actually arm my children to be able to enter the world and survive and thrive and all those things. What's interesting is I think that there's an interesting component to that, because I think there are some instances where you allow a child to be as a child as long as they want.
Yes.
But in some ways, then we end up having a ton of 26-year-olds that are still children. And then I think there's some where it's like if there's over functioning, but there isn't love in the home, then you end up getting people that are, emotionless and have a hard time being in relationships. I think the core part is that you're coming from love.
Yes.
Right. And then the biggest part, I think, that is important for parents that I think end up being parents that have kids that really thrive in life is that you recognize love is not enough, and that we were never actually taught how to love. And so the love is not just allowing your child to be and exist. Like love is really actually helping your child. Brene Brown would say that. She's like, with the studies they did, that a child that is most likely to be successful in life is one that knows they are worthy of love. And being worthy of love means that you believe that they are so worthy of love that you are willing to put forth the effort and the time to cultivate them as a good human being with the values that you believe in and the discipline that you believe in and the things that means to me. That means making sure they understand how their body works, that they take care of it, that they know they're an asset, that they know that they're brilliant, but only if they work hard at it. That if there's anything that they can accomplish, and then let me help you give you the tools to do that. And so the problem I have with the parents that are just letting your kids have fun is that exactly what you're saying. You're just not arming them to be in a world that is going to demand them to have discipline, to have resilience, to have opinions, so that they don't just assume everybody else's opinions. And so, like usually when I hang out with people that just want to let their kids do whatever they want, we don't end up being friends for very long. Not because I don't love them or they're not great human beings, but because I think the way I raise my kids probably feels threatening to them.
Yeah. Well, but so, to your point about, making sure they feel worthy of love and all of that, and also talking about, how we've got to, as moms, we have to let go. We have to let other people step up. We have to let the kids step up. Would you agree with the thought that, part of the way that kids build confidence and trust in themselves and worthiness is like, they have to know they're capable of things too. And they have to know that they can step up when the time comes and, and be responsible. And like you have to allow them space to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in creating autonomy for your kids and independence.
Mm-hmm.
That you give them trust, and then you show them what trust looks like, and then you show them that if they do the wrong things, that they can lose that trust, because that's an important part of relationships. And
Yeah.
so, allowing them to step up is giving them space and showing them kind of what those expectations are, but letting them know that no matter what, you will love them. No matter what,
Yes.
no matter failure, mess up, you're going to screw up. I'd rather my child be honest with me than be perfect. So I want them to tell me the stories, because, my kids are 10 and 12. Once they get to be old enough, we'll start having conversations, existential conversations about who they are and life and love and all of those things. And
Yes.
so part of the way that I do that is I am honest with them from a business perspective and a life perspective. I've gone through a divorce. I've had a parent die. I've had a parent be sick. I've had all sorts of things. I've had a business we went through the pandemic, like really hard times, really hard decisions. And I've had times where I'd cry in front of them and they'd
Yeah.
go, Mom, I wish we could make you happy. And I'm like, that's not what I need. I actually don't need you to make me happy. Like, I'm mourning,
Yeah.
and mourning is a process. And there's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with allowing my emotions to come out. I've lost something that's important to me, or I'm going through something that's hard. I'm really scared right now, but I'm going to keep pushing through. And here's what it looks like to be really scared, because I don't know what the outcome will be in this big thing we're trying, but I want to show you what risk taking looks like. Here is me trying to figure out like how to be healthy in my body and how to take care of myself. And here's the things I'm trying and have totally failed at, and the things that are working, but I'm going to keep going because these are my goals. So ultimately, we do it by example. Our businesses and our life choices make that even easier to show them, because just telling them doesn't work. And then you offer for them to come along. You offer for them to show what they're interested in, but you're showing them how to move past fear, how to feel their emotions, and for it to be okay. I don't have to be happy all the time. That's not what healthy is. Healthy is just like a plate of food. It's got a lot of variety and a lot of color. And that is absolutely normal. So those are the things I tried to teach my kids. And I also tried to teach the moms, because moms are in there crying on the bathroom floor because their kids wouldn't put their shoes on, and they've got to show up to a meeting, and they're wondering, gosh, is anybody to know, am I smart if I haven't been able to shower today? And the answer is yes, you do not have to shower to be intelligent. I mean, we all like to, but it depends on your kid's age, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like, or an Instagrammable house or whatever it is. But we hide all of those things. And what we need to start doing is showing and talking with our kids about what this looks like, and a healthy integration. And then you'd feel less guilty about your work when your work really does need to come first. It's not about stepping away and sacrificing your love for your children. It's about showing them about what priorities meet at what times. And we call them your deal breakers and your dream makers. When my daughter was a toddler, I didn't travel for more than 2 days. I didn't do it for more than 2 times a month, because I wanted to make sure I was there, especially if you're breastfeeding or anything like that. And then as they've gotten older, those shift, but I made those decisions and said, no, this is what's important to me. I'm going to do this particular way at this particular time. And then I would explain those things as my kids got older to my kids. Now my daughter has her own business, and she's about to be 10.
Yeah.
We're doing a marketplace tomorrow where they're going to both sell at their own booths at this cool place in San Clemente.
Cool.
We have discussions about margins and profits, and they both are paid in my business, and we do all those things. And when I travel or I do things, we have discussions about why I need to leave, and like that I love them, and that here's how they could help me to prepare, and what I'd like to do to make sure that they know that I'm thinking of them when they're gone. And that's the kind of relationship I'd like. One where my kids know that if I'm not with them, or I'm doing something else, or I expect something of them, it never diminishes the love between us, right? It is only enhanced by the trust and the me and the pride of seeing somebody reach for their potential.
Yeah. And then they get in high school and they need you more than ever. And it is shocking because you thought that you were like, you thought it was when they were babies that they really needed you.
It never gets easy. It actually just gets harder in different ways.
It really does. That's been my most shocking thing. I have 3 kids, the ages are 16, 14, and 11. And
oh yeah.
like that's been the most surprising thing, is how as they get older, they actually need you more. And it is in a different way. But yeah, it's been interesting and also wonderful.
Well, we find, by the way, a lot of moms, we have moms that they'll start their business. They even have a successful business or anything. Even my integrator, because she has 5 kids, one's out of the house, 4 still in the house. And what we find is that a lot of these women, as their kids get older, there is this interesting sweet spot of age where they actually want to work in their business less, depending on what's going on, because their kids need them more, or they work different hours because their kids need them more. And it's a emotional time where they want to be with them, or their kid gets into a sport and they now realize they really love going and experiencing the traveling with their hockey team or their soccer team or the gymnastics. And so they want to shift their business to being more of somebody else doing things, and they have more time off. So we say that moms run seasonal businesses. Summers are different for moms. Seasons of your kid's life are different for moms. And it's totally natural for a mom to have an ebb and flow of her desire to do things outside of the home and inside of the home, depending on her age and where she's at in her life and where her kids' ages are and where they're in life. And all of those are normal. So we just want to give moms permission that you're not going to start something and then the trajectory is it just has to keep growing forever until, whatever's happening, that you can morph and change, sell your business, step out of your business, do all sorts of things that you want to do, become an employee for a period of time, and not have to worry about doing your own sales. Or there's just so much that you can do. Your kids get older and now your husband wants to be in the business with you. There's just so many ways you could do it. And we've only been taught this kind of corporate way of like, start it, fund it, grow it until it can't be grown any longer, and add more and add more. And that's not what moms and most people want. There's an ebb and flow, and we want to give that permission to them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What do you tell moms who are really just struggling with balancing it all, balancing, having a business or whatever their professional endeavors are with being a mom?
Yeah, well, so it depends. If you're more in a corporate setting and you're actually 9 to 5, but you're having it versus having your own business, because I do think when, the time makes a difference, right? A lot of times when we're really struggling, that's because we don't know how to mix our priorities in the right way. We don't feel good about the way we're managing time or doing things, or we're exhausted because we're trying to do too much. And so you can have a season of push. You can have a season where you're working early in the morning and late at night because you're trying to launch something so you can quit your job, or you're trying to bring something to life. But that can't be forever. You can't. So you have to recognize when you're pushing buttons that will give out at some point. And if you give out, man, that is not a good position for your family or your kids, because an exhausted mom does not help create emotionally regulated people. Like we will create anxiety through our anxiety. So a calm mom is the kind of mom we want. A reassuring, a confident, a happy, excited, a loves to laugh and enjoy life, play a little mom. That's what we want. So what we find is that stepping back, really assessing and looking at what the priorities are, and in the Boss Mom book, we talk about the 1 bucket method. Like, you can't have a business bucket, you can't have a life bucket. There's only one bucket. There's one bucket of life. So you have to really look at what are the important things and be willing to prune half of it. Prune volunteering at school if business is what is more important to you. Prune, doing that extra project with that client if it's more important. Prune handing off social media to somebody if it's the one thing you hate that you take too much time doing, right? And so recognizing the things you're good at, the things you think you are doing because you think you have to, versus the things that you really don't have to do. There's so many things in business that we don't have to do to be successful, but we do the shoulds. And I think moms just do a lot of the shoulds, and then we end up being worn out. So that little assessment helps us kind of break things down and recognize what's important. But it only works if you're willing to let go of some things. And that's why, and I end up saying, like, most moms need business coaches, but they need therapists right alongside it, because we don't recognize we're like, but I can't let go of that. I've got to do that. And I can't delegate that because I need to prove that I can do this thing, right? Or I've been doing it for long enough, so I need to do it until it works, even though the strategy has not been working for me. or my life situation has changed, but I'm going to keep doing everything the exact same way I was. We have to be willing to make those shifts, and we should do it because then we can show our kids that being agile is a really, really good quality to have.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the conversation around domestic services? I mean, I just know in my life, and thankfully I have a friend who's like, you do not have enough people on staff at home. Like she has like a staff of 20 people at home. And I will
that would
say,
be nice.
yeah, and I will say, like, she's always pushing me to hire more domestic staff. And I will say, I think that is the key to happiness for a mom. Because when I hear moms talk, I see it all the time. It's Instagram is an interesting place and social media is an interesting place because I think on this side you have the people with the perfect houses and the Instagrammable everythings. And then I think there's also the same amount of people who like intentionally go the opposite way, and they'll show you the piles of laundry and like, oh my gosh, that just gives me so much anxiety. And they'll tell you how there's nobody on the planet that has a clean house all the time and doesn't have these piles of laundry. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of people that don't have those piles of laundry because we have people that are doing that. Yeah. Like stop glorifying that side of things. But anyway, so I personally am of the belief that domestic services are completely a boss mom's key to happiness because your energy is not being focused to all those household tasks that are very easily delegable. What are your thoughts on that? And I know this is it's not maybe a relatable conversation to everyone. And so I think a lot of moms that have this are very hush hush about it. But I think that's a disservice to everyone.
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. There should be no shame in having money to get things. I cannot remember her name because it was like 9 years ago, but I remember interviewing somebody who was super successful, and she didn't have babies until she had a multi-million-dollar business. And she was saying, she's like, hi, Dana, I don't know if I'm relatable to your audience because I have a night nanny and I have someone coming and doing my laundry and all these things. And I was like, don't you dare be ashamed of being successful and having people help you. I was like, don't you dare. Like, if somebody in this audience is listening and they're like, how dare you have people help you around the house because they don't have that, well, then they need to like take a deep breath and recognize then if you want it, if you don't want to do the things in your home, then do the things necessary to pay to have them. Right. So I love it. If you like those things, I think it depends on the kind of person. There's certain things that people want to manage in their own home. And I think we should, just like I was saying before, be really honest. Like, I love to cook, but I only love to cook like 2 days a week.
Right. Yes.
So I don't want somebody, if I don't have somebody coming in and cooking for me all the time, but we eat out a lot because I don't want to, right? I just don't want to. When it comes to, cleaning, it's like, I don't mind doing my own laundry. I'd like do things like that. Like, I don't necessarily have to, but somebody coming in and like making sure all the grubby hands on your walls, like that's a pain in the butt. And when you start getting to a level of business or purpose or whatever it is you're doing, you start to see those things as a drain of energy and time, and you start to recognize your time and your energy is more important. So once I moved out of just having a business into an actual CEO role, I was basically, given the task to say, if you would pay somebody under $200 an hour to do it, you're not allowed to do it because that's a bad use of your time. Now, I will say, my friend will call and she'll be like, where are you at? And I'll be like, I'm in the grocery store. And she'll go, oh my gosh, that's a terrible use of your time, Dana. And I'm like, no, I've worked at home all day. I put my heels on before the kids came home, and I'm strutting in the grocery store, listening to an audiobook, and this is my me time. So it's like, I consciously, I like going to the grocery store because I'm also that person that like only gets fresh stuff. So I buy stuff like I grocery shop like every day.
Yeah.
I like it. It's this little thing. It's right down the street. I always have to live within like a mile of a grocery store. So those things, you guys just have to decide what you want to do, what you're doing because you enjoy them. And then recognize that even if you enjoy them at some point, if you're pursuing bigger things, that it will not be a good use of your time. And I just don't think people make that assessment. I don't think they make that assessment. And I think I have a terrible time remembering to get my kids to help with the laundry, their dad, or things like that. Their dad is great at chores. I'm not good at that, but I'm great at us talking through vocabulary, of us writing, doing storytelling together, of us discussing political, religious, conceptual thoughts together, so that I can tell them all the options and what my opinion is and how they form their own opinions. We'll go down the rabbit hole of that all day long. So just decide what you care most about. Let go of the rest of the stuff, because you've got 5 different balls in the air. If it's your health and your spirituality and your family and your business and your all the other things, and you can only have 1 or 2 in the air, and the rest are like under the couch or under a pile of clothes. And you make those decisions about the things you care about most, and then recognize they're going to rotate sometimes, and life is going to change sometimes. But I would say never we all have money mindset issues. Like, never apologize for having more, for wanting more, pursuing more, and then therefore having the resources to free up your time, because the freeing up your time is where the leverageable space is to exponentially grow, either self-growth, self-care, monetarily, all of those experiences, all of that stuff.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I might disagree with you about, I might disagree with you that's in your book is, and this is like, I've been tainted or, brainwashed or whatever by my business coach, is he's like, your business is not your baby. Your business is your bitch, and you better make it work for you. And so, but I mean, as a business owner though, that's a very hard thing to get out of, because it is your baby. You have raised it up from infancy, and you've gone through all the hard things with it, and you've been in the struggle and in the trenches with it, and you've gone through the tea that, all the things. So, I mean, it is still a great analogy, but
while I wouldn't say that we would say the same phrase that your coach used to your kids, I do think it's still the same, because the fact is it is not my job to take care of my kids. So I catch a lot of flack all the time, because I say that, I tell my kids all the time, when you get out of school, you're not staying here.
Yeah.
And people will go, but Dana, it's so expensive. Like, how are they going to live? I was like, with like 10 roommates, like God intended.
They'll
like,
figure
that's
it
what you
out.
do. You
Yes.
go around, you will figure it out. You think I could afford something on my own? I lived in Chicago. It's like, when I was in my 20s, no, I got a roommate, and then I got a husband, and those things worked for me. I was like, I've always had a roommate until, and now I've got you guys. So now I've got roommates that don't even pay rent. I was like, but I told them, I'm like, you don't get to stay here. And everybody will be like, oh my gosh, Dana, you have to let them know that you're here for them. I was like, no. Me being here for them and me letting them live here are 2 completely different things.
Right.
And what I tell them is, I was like, look, you should not want to stay here, because you should be loved by me so much that you have the freedom to go roam, mess up, figure things out, and I will be here. But you shouldn't want to stay here, because I'm going to go travel, and you're going to go travel, and we'll meet in different places, and you'll come home when you want to. But it isn't about me being this place that you get to stay. It's about me being a safe place that you're always going to be loved, so that you can go out. And I catch flack for that all the time. People get really upset with me that I will not let my kids live here. And my mom didn't. My parents moved when we were in Texas. I went to Indiana. My parents moved to San Francisco the day I went to college, and they're like, if you're good, we'll give you our address. And people will be like, oh my gosh, how dare they? And I'm like, that's because there was no question. I was never going to stay with my parents, because they gave me enough love and connection and resources in myself to know that I was going to be good. Why would I want to sit around with my parents when I want to go and live a little and I told my daughter, I was like, you do not want me to be here judging you when you're 18.
Right.
Because I will, because you're going to make terrible decisions. I was like, go out so that I can't see what you're doing. And then once you screwed up, you can call me and I can talk you through how to fix it. Like, that's the kind of mom I want to be. But you're going to catch flack for stuff. I'm going to catch flack for stuff.
Yeah.
I do think your business is like your baby, in the sense that you need to create something that can live on its own, that can be independent,
yes,
that
I
can
agree
go out.
with you. Yeah, I love the way that you explain that, because I think it's so true. I mean, when I've gotten into discussions, like the stay-at-home mom thing versus, the working mom thing, and that can be kind of touchy. I mean, my thought in just, doing my own critical thinking about it, I'm like, if God intended for a woman to have kids as her entire life purpose, he would have never made them grow up. But instead he designed it so that they grow up and they launch and they go on to be high functioning adults that contribute to society, hopefully. So I love the analogy. That puts a perspective on it that I hadn't actually thought about. So we're very much aligned.
Yeah. But by the way, the stay-at-home mom, the funny part is the stay-at-home mom who was just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, 20 years ago, they had to make that choice. Now, I would tell you, most of our boss moms that like come into our community are stay-at-home moms. But
That's
now they have
true.
the option to have an Etsy shop, to be in an MLM, to actually become a coach. I have an insane amount of therapists, lawyers, doctors, pharmacists, nurses, news anchors, all of those that are like, they had the job, then they had their kids, and they're like, oh, my job does not cater to having kids, so I want to be home with my kids. But they're smart people that now that we have all of these online opportunities, I would tell you they're all starting businesses. So unless you're the stay-at-home mom, and even stay-at-home moms that say their kids are everything, you'll notice they're out volunteering, they're doing community work, they're doing things. So whether women say it or not, 20 years ago you were a stay-at-home mom. Now we just have work at home moms, and it just depends on how much of your time and your priority you're homeschooling. And even the moms that homeschool, they're running it like a business, and then they end up selling the way they do it like a business. So it's like we are entering a world, like the new Boss Mom book is just that every mom has to have a business. Every mom has to have a business because it is not only an outlet, it is a way to reintegrate the parts of ourselves that get broken apart as we become a mom. There's the mom, the woman, the voice, they all become reintegrated. It helps us self-develop in ways we never would because we don't give ourselves the time. But when we go out to start a business and you got to be online and you got to say things out loud, you recognize places where you have beliefs or feelings of inadequacy that you get to start to measure. You get to hang out with other people who then give you this appreciation feedback loop, so you can build your confidence back up in these areas after you've had kids, because you start to wonder if you're intelligent for a hot second when you're like, I don't know how to take care of this tiny infant. So all of that is, I believe, within the next 5 years, every single mom will have a business. I mean, if we can help it, because even and that I want the world to look at them like businesses. Like, part of Boss Mom's new mission that we are really moving into isn't just, oh, we'll help you start a business, but is that I am so sick of a bank or the SBA or whatever it is, deciding that if your business is under $1 million and you're not working 9 to 5 and you don't have employees, that you're not legit. Like, a mom working 10 hours a week as a virtual assistant, that is a business. She's bringing in money for her family. Like, if she's doing an MLM, if she's doing a coaching over here, if she's building a small product, it doesn't matter. Those are all businesses. And I want a world where those moms don't feel ashamed as if they're doing some cute little hobby. Like, they have businesses and they're spending the rest of their time being a parent. Give them that.
Yes. What a time to be alive,
What a time.
Maybe we can really have it all.
We can. I think what is it, Oprah that said, just not all at once?
Right. Yes. I love it. Well, Dana, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all the work that you're doing on behalf of boss moms everywhere. This is great. I love the movement. It's amazing. I think it's so good for women.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love having these conversations, and I love just the openness and honestness, because this is what'll change the world, is the actual conversations out loud that a lot of women listening to this haven't heard before or didn't think you could say, but they were thinking it, and that's where the change really happens.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I've got just a little bit more to say. We've talked about this before, and it's this concept of like truly being honest about what you really want out of life. And so often, a lot of us have a really hard time doing that. And I think it's because there's a lot of guilt and shame wrapped up in whatever you think it is that you should want. And the reason why we can't really say what we actually want is because we feel guilt or shame about what we actually want. So we just talk about what we should want. But I think we all just need to be really clear and just have a very honest conversation about ourselves, about what we truly want. And maybe that means you're going to be a boss mom, and maybe that means you're not going to be a boss mom and you're going to be something else. Whatever it is, I hope you feel free to be honest about it. But I have a question for you all. Do you really think you can have it all? I mean, Dana and I, we kind of joked about what a time to be alive, you can have it all. But I'm curious, do you think you can have it all? I don't know. Tell me what you think. But one thing we do know for sure is that you were made for more.